Well, my second guest on the Off the Lip podcast, brought to you by Surfing England. It's an absolute honour to have the CEO of Surfing England with us today. Joined back in 2019 after working in a lot of kind of environmental funding companies that with an environmental background, a real fundraiser in his heyday before joining Surfing England. Welcome to Off the Lip, Ben Powis.
Oh, thank you, Martin. It's an absolute pleasure to be here after you and I have spoken many times about how cool would it be to do a podcast. Like,
Absolutely.
we've got so much insight into the world of UK surfing and,
Yeah.
and so much access to some amazing surfers who've got amazing stories. So yeah, really cool to see this coming to fruition and yeah, to be able to start chatting in a bit more depth about some of the work we do.
I think it's really important to have you here, Ben, to hear it from the horse's mouth, because you're at the forefront of a national governing body which is driving surfing at an alarming rate, a fast rate, an incredibly progressive rate. And there's many people out there in the surfing world, the parents of young groms, competitive surfers, free surfers, people in the UK that are thinking, what is an NGB doing for surfing and what's going on in the background? And I think by having you here and asking you some questions, I really want to be able to explore that so that some of them, those people out there in the car parks, the people that rock up and they start to have a conversation after a surf about it, or they're waiting for the right stage of the tide, being able to have that information from you is going to be incredibly insightful and give them that opportunity to really answer some of those questions they've got. So are you ready to dive into it?
You're setting the bar, Martin. And yeah, I'll do what I can. But of course, yes, we've got a phenomenal team at Surfing England now who really are the ones doing all the delivering.
Yeah.
So I shall do what I can to bring that to life and
Well, thank
answer
you.
whatever questions you've got. Yeah.
I always like to ask my guests, where did your passion for surfing actually start? Where did you get the bug?
Well, I'm an Essex boy, so I grew up in Essex, where the sea is kind of a colour of gravy and generally flat and choppy. I didn't even know surfing was a thing or an opportunity. Didn't realise I was surfing this country until I was probably 20. So I did the classic thing of going away before uni and went travelling and landed up in Oz, and it was just like, whoa, this looks so cool. And I started to surf there, and then when I came back, I was like, right, where can I surf in England? And I was going to uni in Norwich at UEA, and I was like, right, where's the nearest surf to there? And it turned out you can surf on the north coast of Norfolk.
Yeah.
So I was like, sweet, like I can keep surfing, and massive shock because it's absolutely freezing on the north coast of
Yeah.
Norfolk. Like,
Yeah.
I loved my sessions there, but it's the coldest I've ever been.
Yeah.
And then finished uni and moved straight to Cornwall, down to Truro, and yeah, I've just carried on kind of surfing at a fairly solid intermediate standard ever since.
I've seen you. You're doing yourself injustice. So obviously, once we've got that bug, as many of the people that be watching our show, it is it's really hard to ever really let it go. It will always be eating away at you. So when the opportunity for the CEO role at Surfing England appeared, what drew you towards it?
I never dreamt that I would be able to eke out a career within the sport that I love and I'm really passionate about.
Yeah.
And I was working in the kind of clean tech sector, and I was running some innovation centers as part of Hinkley Point C supply chain.
Yeah.
And I was doing a lot of commercial work, deals with companies like, I don't know, EDF and people in the nuclear supply chain. So quite focused on the commercial side. And Surfing England were looking for a commercial director at the time, and I'd never even heard of Surfing England. And
Yeah.
one of my friends just sent me the link, and they were like, "Hey, don't you do something with money? And don't you like surfing?" And they sent me the job role, and I was like, "Oh, I do something with money, and I do like surfing.
This is a marriage
This
made in
is
heaven.
this is let's go for it." And so yeah, I did a kind of load of prep, rocked up to the interview with some ideas that I thought would help move surfing in England forward. And yeah, Surfing England, then they offered me a role, and I said, "Right, yeah, brilliant. Can I just see a copy of the accounts? Can I see where we're at?" And I took those home, and then I was like, oh gosh, this is a leap,
Yeah.
a real leap. So yeah, I went from kind of quite a safe corporate world, all the usual trimmings, to a very different world at Surfing England, which is
Mm.
really startup world. And my kind of predecessor, a guy called Nick Rees, had done an amazing job pulling together the foundations of a governing body,
Mm.
but we were still really small. There was only 3 employees. Yeah, we weren't turning over heaps. We didn't
No.
have any core funding, so it was was a gamble, kind of,
Mm.
and a bit of a risk. And I've got a lot to thank in terms of my wife saying, "Yeah, you know what? Like, you go for it.
Yeah.
I'll shoulder some of the burden at home for a few years." Yeah, and I made the jump, and well, there's been a couple of times where I've been like, "Whoa, was this the right call?" The pandemic being one of those.
Yeah. Those
But
difficult times.
yeah, but generally speaking, I've absolutely loved it. It can be a roller coaster, but it's a real privilege to work in an environment with some amazing people,
Mm.
and seeing and knowing the impact that surfing can have on people's lives. It's yeah, like I say, it's just an absolute privilege to be working in a space where that's what we
Mm.
do for a living. Every
Yeah.
day we go to work.
Yeah.
How can we make people's lives better through surfing?
Yeah.
So yeah, I can't complain at all.
I think you are definitely in the right position for what the organization at the time needed. You've spearheaded that, you've driven it forward, and look what's happened since 2019. We were all made aware, the publicity was released that back in 2023, we got this information from, well, it's around the Olympics, that the Olympics were going to be showcasing surfing. There was going to be an exhibition edition, because if you don't know, I'm sure you do, but those are out there listening, the Olympics kind of have set criteria of how many sports they're allowed to have across all events. If a sport is to come in, another sport has to drop out. And actually, that means that if you're going to bring in the likes of surfing, and we saw climbing and special sport climbing, as well as skateboarding, they became exhibition events to allow them to be there. But that was also then drawing opportunity to bring funding into an NGB such as yourself. So when you got the check for £998,000 to be kind of distributed over a 3-year project, I bet obviously our eyes lit up. But how do we spend that £998 as a national governing body across the areas that we need to get the most impact from it?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So securing the Sport England funding was it was a massive milestone
Mm.
for us, and the money that we have is really about supporting the grassroots
Yeah.
of surfing and building and putting in place the structures that we need for growth.
Yeah.
So that kind of £1 million is spread over 3 and a bit years. It's incremental. So we sort of got the smallest amount in year one, and it builds through year
Mm.
two, year three, and then the largest chunk in year four. And I guess it's roughly split across 3 areas.
Mhm.
There's our kind of governance and operational role, there's our community role, and then there's talent.
Yeah.
So governance and operations is really about the smooth running of the organization.
Mhm.
So that's investment in our kind of systems and processes. So like any business, we have rent to pay, we have insurance, we have kind of cross business functions like finance and HR, management capacity. All of that is contributed toward through that funding.
Mhm.
And then our governance function, which is really about how we make decisions, is really important. So that's about developing and having in place the right policies, which can be from stuff around procurement or financial delegation, through to things that really matter to the surfing community, like selection policies for
Yeah.
getting into Team England.
Yeah.
Um, and for me, that side of the investment, although it's a little bit kind of boring and under the radar, is actually really fundamental for the longer term future of the business, the
Yeah.
organization. And what we want to show to Sport England and to other major funders of sport is that surfing is a really safe pair of hands.
Yeah.
You can put public funds into surfing and we will deliver for you.
Mm.
We'll deliver great bang for the buck in
Yeah.
terms of the type of outputs the public sector looks for, but we'll also do it in a way that's it's honest, it's accountable, it's transparent. We record our impact. We tick all the boxes that we have to tick. And this first tranche of funding we've got, it's obviously super important. We do a great job at that because in my mind, that's step one on the ladder.
Yeah.
And we want to keep building until surfing is supported in a way that's parable with other bigger sports.
Yeah, absolutely.
The other areas that go into community, so our membership and kind of club services. So we've been able to employ someone to just be 100% focused on supporting surf clubs.
Yeah.
And what an amazing job that is, to wake up every day thinking, how do I make life better for our surf clubs?
Absolutely.
Because surf clubs do a phenomenal job all around the country, supporting their kind of local communities, giving Groms an opportunity to develop their skills. And you guys know just how important a club here is in viewed,
Yeah.
and the impact that has on youngsters.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
yes, we've got more resource there, and we also, as part of that work related to the community, things like our junior surf series, which we run in conjunction with clubs, our Power Roadshow, which goes around the country, getting more people engaged with parasurfing, challenging perceptions about what's possible. All of that kind of work sort of sits within that kind of community piece. And then the bit that people are usually most interested in is our talent funding. So that's the biggest tranche that we invest in. And we probably have just over £100,000 a year going into our talent pot. And we split that equally between our junior program and our para program.
Yeah.
Um, and we've come like such a long way in the last couple of years in developing both of those.
With incredible results.
Yeah,
Yeah.
with some amazing results. Full credit to the surfers who put in all the graft to make those results happen. But to have the right support behind them is crucial. And we've moved from purely volunteer-led programs, which were a little bit ad hoc because you're working around the needs of volunteers who have also got other jobs and mortgages and families and all that kind of stuff to
Yeah.
manage, to a more professionalized program with coaches who are paid for their time to go and deliver and crucially to organize
Yeah.
the kind of training programs through the year. And I sat with our performance team this morning listening to what's planned for both of those teams, and it's awesome. Things could only have been a dream a couple of years ago. We're now talking about like the number of barrel camps that are being run, or there's an air camp going to be happening in at the Wave in Munich, or taking like kids to CT events so that they can like go and experience what that level of competition is like and get some free surfing with the pros. It just, the whole performance piece now is getting really, really, really exciting. So yeah, that's where a
It's
big
exciting.
tranche of that goes, and
So
we're spending
exciting.
time.
We've seen the way in which the Junior Surf Series, which you alluded to, which has been spearheaded by the incredible Phil Williams, who is
Legend.
just a dynamo. I think he was awarded Carve's, surfer of volunteering and everything he does in the whole of their awards
Yeah, rightly so.
recently, and absolutely. And we hear that Phil's recently just stepped away from his role of Christian Surfer as the UK kind of lead of it. Still going to be involved in the European side. He's talked about that, but his drive of the Junior Surf Series, we look at that. It's only really been running for 3 or 4 years. Okay. We've had surfers that have come in at under 12s. Let's take Betsy Ray for an example. Okay. She's gone through that program, started at a club level, junior surf series. She's won a few events. She's battled against many of the other surfers. Out of the blue, she heard about a European event that was held in Tenerife. She travels out there and she comes back with a European title. That was unheard of only 5 or 6 years before that with some of our younger surfers. They wouldn't have understood that pathway of progression. And that's key to where that funding's really coming, isn't it? It's an amazing achievement. And if that's happening with our youngest ones, we've then got the likes of Lucas at the other end of that scale, moving out of the under 16s and into sort of the adult level. 2 times Rip Curl Grom Search champion, 2 times runners up in the World Juniors. We've got girls absolutely shredding as well. It is going to be an incredible year as we move forward with where our juniors continue to develop, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And so many good points within that, Martin. I think one of which is what that funding allows you to leverage.
Yeah.
So once you've got that in place and you can cover some of your core costs and you can build your team, you can then go out and win other funds. So because we've now got a really good program in place, we're able to work even more closely with Sports Aid. That's allowing us to put £50,000 worth of grants direct into surfers' pockets every year. That's enabling our young surfers to really access even more coaching, take part in even more camps. It's allowing us to put more resource into the junior series, and that's not without challenge. We had one of our kind of core sponsors of the junior series pull out for this year due to the impact of the budget on their business. So we're busy looking for replacement sponsors for that series, which we're determined to find, because the series is so important. I love the way it brings Surfing England and the surf clubs together. I love the opportunity it gives to our younger surfers. I think we've got ambition to bring in things like priority for the older age groups within a junior program to even better equip them for when they go on and compete, like Betsy's done at European events. So yeah, I think the junior series is, and Phil is such a big part of that, and it's such a pleasure to be at the beach and to see all those young surfers and to see them making mistakes and learning from those mistakes, to see them building friendships
Yeah.
with other surfers from around the country who are competing there, to see the club volunteers upskilling and being able to practice the different roles of delivering contests. Yeah, the whole piece is, yeah, it's just a joy to be a part of, and you've been a large part of that as well, Martin, with Bude
Thank you.
hosting a number of those events, and yeah, stepping in and providing us with some commentary on on occasion when we were short as well.
I think what's really special about what Surfing England have done is that those fledgling clubs that are starting out, if they need infrastructure, the grant and the funding that's coming from Surfing England to enable them to get the equipment so that they can put out the logistics of a contest, be that with marquees, PA systems, rash rest. That's what's allowed so much more of a development through the communities, because for us as a club at Bude Wave Riders, we've then been able to identify what we're missing, which will really make our contest more approachable, more kind of interactive with the crowd, the parents, the audiences, and that just draws more people in, doesn't it? And it ends up you having a mini contest site run by a small community club. It's incredible.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. And that's what you can do when you've just got that little bit of additional capacity. You can
yeah,
provide that like just extra bit of support. And sometimes that makes all the difference. And not just with junior surfing, but we've got some work going on the para side at the moment, where one of our team, Jack, is working with 3 different clubs who want to improve their para offer. And we're helping them with some funding applications into Sport England through their movement fund. And hopefully that will see the development of 3 new para surf clubs, which will provide a whole heap of new additional opportunities for more people with disability to get into surfing,
yeah.
which supports the start of the pathway into competitive para surfing and getting involved in Team England and representing your country at the Worlds and you know, all that good stuff.
And then if you move towards our para achievements this year, Charlotte getting the world title, Sponge obviously representing Wales, picking up another world title, and then Zoe. We've got such talented surfers in our paras, and I know they're desperately petitioning for the addition of para surfing in the 2028 Olympics. At the moment, the decision is made in LA that it's obviously the able-bodied surfers are going to be competing, but sadly, the paras have not yet been included in the Paralympics in surfing. We are all behind them, and we will do everything we can as an organization, aren't we, to try and support that. And there is petitions out there they're trying to see, and let's hope that in the years to come, paras surfing will also be in the Olympics. I wanted to move on to kind of like where Surfing England falls with its linking with the professional pathway of our development into GB surfing. So how does our surfers coming out of our England route move into GB, and how are we as an organisation supporting that as well?
Yeah, yes. It's maybe for a little bit of context. So the way sport is funded in the UK is we have 2 main funding bodies: UK Sport and Sport England. UK Sport are focused on Olympic disciplines and elite level performance. So they effectively fund sport to win medals. So UK Sport are now funding GB surfing, now that surfing's an Olympic sport. They got, I think, £1.35 million for the next Olympic cycle. And that is purely focused on the GB progression program for surfers who are looking at breaking through into the Olympics. So they have quite a small team that they're supporting. I think there's 6 or 7 athletes on that program, and they are given access to an amazing program of coaching, training camps, and it's all about preparing them to try and put them in a place where they're able to secure a spot in the next Olympics. The funding we have is from Sport England, and Sport England are much more interested in getting people active. So they support sports more at a grassroots level,
Mm-hmm.
and they're much keener on how we get people engaged with sport, how we get people moving and get people active, how we break down barriers and increase inclusion
Mm-hmm.
and reach groups that are traditionally underrepresented in our different sports. So they have a very different focus, which is where our funding comes from. And for me, the trick, especially within talent, is to look at how we integrate those two programs.
Yeah.
And it needs to be as seamless as possible, so that surfers can come in at a junior level And we're working really closely with the coaches on the GB side so that we can develop young surfers. We've got all the technical competencies they need to then go and secure a spot on the progression program and then
Yeah,
go forward and compete internationally.
exactly.
And the progression program so far is full of our junior program alumni. So there's a really nice link there at the moment, and long may that continue, and we'll keep working really really hard to look at how we best equip our surfers, both as young people coming into the world of competitive surfing and all the challenges that brings around social media and pressure and all the decisions you have to make as a young person, whether you want to further your surfing career, the balance against going to university and all those things, as well as just trying to give them all the core technical competencies that they need to succeed.
Nowadays, as a professional surfer, they have to manage so much more than just their surfing ability. It's the managing the brand, managing their sponsors, managing their ability to navigate all of the kind of countries and moving around and logistics, lugging their boards from here to there. It requires far more than just their ability, doesn't it? And I really feel that what our talent pathway is doing with Bo and the junior development side is what they've got planned this year, as you alluded to before, is so exciting. They're going to be giving them so much more of an immersive experience in what it is to be a professional surfer, and learning all of those little tiny parts of it that come together like a jigsaw tapestry to better get there. It's amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
We talked about 2028 Olympics. Right. We have got some incredible talent coming through. Have we got somebody in our pathway that could get there, could make it? Do you feel like 2028 is the year that we'll see one of our first English surfers at Olympics?
Yeah, I think we're going to be seriously competitive in 2028, and 100% looking at 2032.
Yeah.
We obviously, I think the WSL, the regional QS Challenger Series, like I feel we need to really push and see our surfers progress through those. I think they're fantastic proving grounds for competitive surfers, and obviously we want to be aiming at the CT, but we've also got the route through the ISA Worlds where we compete as a team. This year we're competing as Team England, but in Olympic qualifying years it's Team GB. That is a really good qualification route for our surfers, and we do have surfers. Probably Lucas is the biggest name at the moment. He's currently well, by whatever measure you look at, he is one or two in the world in his age group.
Yeah.
Really really exciting talent, and he's leading the charge with a whole bunch of young surfers right behind him in terms of their talent, their potential, their capability. So yeah, I'm really excited. It's a really hard path. Like the level of talent globally is through the roof. We're seeing that with the latest crop of women surfers coming onto the CT.
Yeah.
Where it's just so competitive, and you have to be so good to be one of those top 20 surfers in the world.
Yeah.
But that said, I think we've got some surfers, we've got mega talent, and with the right support and the right pathway, there's no reason why we shouldn't be right up there challenging with the with the best over the next 4 8 year cycles.
I think that's that belief that we're finally, as a nation, we're feeling, aren't we? We can see it when Lucas is coming back from those events that he's winning. And in the past, Ellie Turner finished fourth. She got a copper medal when she was out in the Azores, and Ellie still as part of the GB development out in Australia at the moment. We've got that talent. It's there, and it's just making it streamlined so it reaches that end point with the success that we hope. I cannot wait. I mean, Erin Brooks has just dropped for her first time onto the WSL. Erin won the Pipe Masters earlier on in the season, and obviously the WSL's event at Pipe is starting over the next couple of days in their waiting period. She's not even in her 20s. Okay, Caitlin Simmers, current world champion. If anyone hasn't seen the edit from O'Neill's brand where they went out and found waves around and Caitlin charged those barrels, which are some of the most incredible waves I've ever seen anyone be riding, irrespective of the fact that she's a female, those waves are incredible. These are kids. They're still only just out of high school, okay? And they're now going to be taking it to some of the veterans on there who are still multiple event winners. I I know from my own niece who's talking about her heroes. You know, her hero is Emily Curry here in the UK. She loves surfing around Emily, but she's got young girls who are only a few years older that competing for world titles. The real change in female participation in England, the real kind of wealth of development is, I think, testament to what we're doing in Junior Surf Series. I feel that we're getting a huge amount of girls joining community surf clubs, and there's a real momentum. Do you feel that as an organization that in terms of one of your target areas, girls in surfing is increasing?
Yeah, I mean, women's surfing is just so exciting right now, from like you say, right at the top level, and that new crop of young women who are just really charging in
Oh my
really
God.
heavy waves, and also above the lip. Like,
Yeah.
you know, seen some of Yares, and it's amazing. And I think that trickles all the way down. And when we started the Junior Surf Series, and we ran, I think it was in Croyd, our first ever event, and you know, the boys, as ever, were just oversubscribed in all the categories, and the girls, we only had a handful of girls in each category, and we recognized really early on, okay, we need to do something here. We need to instigate some change, and we need to make this series as attractive as possible to the young girls. And yeah, by the, you know, end of the junior series last year, we were as oversubscribed for the girls categories as we were for the boys divisions. And the girls are surfing so hard and doing so well. And I think once you start to build that kind of core of girls who are surfing really well, it just, it really starts to build. You sort
Yeah.
of gain
It's like a
momentum,
snowball down that
and it,
mountain.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And you know, the talent coming up through the girls, you know, the under 12s, the under 14s is phenomenal. And you know, they've got some great role models to look up to domestically, but also internationally. So yeah, women's surfing just feels like we're turning this kind of corner at the moment, and
Yeah.
it's getting really exciting. And we obviously want to do, you know, all we can to support that. And you know, just even little things like making sure that our coaching teams are, we have a good gender split on our coaching teams, and that we have really good strong coaching role models for the girls who are coming up through our talent programs. Yeah, all of these parts, how we portray women in our edits after our events, like all of these things matter, and they make a difference, and
Mm.
they all add up. So yeah, no, we're super excited about women surfing at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, Emily alluded to that in her interview with me earlier, that she's part of the junior development training squad in terms of as a coach, and she's giving back so much of her knowledge and experience, and that can only benefit and just go on to create strength and depth in the future. It's an exciting time to be a young female surfer in the UK, whereas I definitely would suggest in Emily's conversation that earlier, when she was younger, that might have felt quite a lonely existence at beaches around the southwest or anywhere in the UK when you were a young female surfer. It's definitely changing with momentum. It's great. Ben, before I bid you a fond farewell, I've really enjoyed talking to you today. Your dynamic expanding team, as you've alluded to, you've now got memberships officer, you've got your club officer, you've got your para officer in their roles. Please excuse me if their titles are wrong, but we've also got development of kind of coaching qualifications and making sure your surf schools are delivering the right level of kind of development right at that grassroots. What are your biggest kind of mission statements for 2025? What would we like to see aside from what you've already said?
Gosh, it's a really good question. For me, it's to keep building what we're doing, and to a kind of continuation in 2025 of creating those, you know, foundations that are gonna come good over the years as we sort of continue to grow and evolve. So, you know, the ongoing development of all of our kind of talent programs. I want to be able to do more for SUP. You know, it's a discipline we've not touched on, but you know, we got two world champions come home from the last SUP Worlds, and some real talent
It's incredible.
in that, yeah, in that
Yeah.
space. I'm really keen that our events program continues to grow and evolve. You know, we've brought in things like priority, which is really important to have that into our events. But there's lots more of exciting plans our events team have got about how we progress those. I think giving more competitive opportunities to our young surfers and to our para surfers is a really kind of key part of the journey for anyone who's going down that route. I want to continue to increase, or continue to kind of have a decent voice at the national table. So, I want surfing to continue to grow in terms of its presence. I'm a part of a number of cross sport groups, and it's really great now that we're around the table with some of the bigger sports, and we're starting to influence decisions at a national level. So that's really important, and I want to see that voice continue to grow. So for me, 2025 is really a kind of continuation year. We've made some changes. We've brought a lot of new people into the team. Those people are amazing, and they need time to settle and to gel into their roles. So yeah, no, there's no kind of one specific, but there are just multiple small factors that all will make a big difference.
Building on the momentum you've had of 2024. That's clearly what's coming across in our conversation, Ben. And that's where we know that 2025 is going to be a success, because we've had one hell of a successful year, haven't we? And let's just sit here maybe in a year's time and reflect on where we be. I can't even imagine where we could be because of what we've achieved in a year. And it's testament to you, your organization, your NGB, your driving surfing in England. And we all just can't say how grateful we are more. I really appreciate everything you're doing, your team. And, we're coming up to our first event pretty soon.
Yes, we
English
are.
Nationals, Caravan and Motorhome Club are back on as our official headline sponsor once again. It's great to have the Caravan and Motorhome Club. They've been with us for 10 years. They are going to be kind of our partner for our podcast running through the year. It's great to have the Caravan and Motorhome Club. They are such an amazing, and I think they really match our kind of vibe as an organization, because surfers love to travel around the UK and be able to stay in certain places. They have got over 2,000 campsites around the whole of the UK. They can support you with getting on ferries and moving across to Europe. And they're going to be really supporting our selection process, because tell me if I'm right, in the English Nationals, selection potentially for England to go to the Worlds is going to be as a potential selection event. Am I right?
Yes, so right on both counts.
Yeah.
Caravan Motorhome Club are legends. They've been supporting English surfing for 10 years. So if you've got a van, do check out their membership. I love giving back to companies that actually genuinely invest in grassroots surfing. Yes, and you're also right. The English national champs will be a biggie this year, because it will be part of the selection process for the team that will go to the Worlds. We've just had the dates drop for that from the ISA, so we're looking, I think, in early September. So that's really exciting prospect for us. Heaps of talent. It's always gives our selectors a challenge, but it's an amazing challenge to have, and a huge amount of thought goes into those selection policies and ensuring that they're delivered, and that selection panels really consider every aspect. These are choices that people really take their time over,
Yeah.
because
Because
they
it's
mean a lot.
important. It means a lot. Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely, it means a huge amount for surfers.
And they're gaining that kind of selection across obviously rankings in events, rankings kind of like from selection and their ability. So for them to be considered for the Worlds, they've got to be at these events. Now it's going to be a 3-day event for the under 18s and the Open, and that's official. And then the juniors back to Watergate Bay, and that's going to be a little bit later on in the year with some of the juniors and the longboarding like we had last year. So there's going to be potentially 5 days of surfing across those two venues over those different weekends. If anyone wants to come down and see the English Nationals, we always advise them coming down, don't we? Because it's not just about the surfers being there. There's a real sort of environment of beach games going on the beach with some of our kind of sponsors from Decathlon, and they're there and helping supporting. But we've got so many things that a person that can come down and see what's going on at a surf competition and just sit there, grab a deck chair and just enjoy it, because it's a real festival feel down at a surf comp, isn't it?
Yeah. It is. It's both those events will be super fun. The Open will be really competitive. So if you are interested in kind of performance surfing, it's a great one just to drop in on and check out the level of surfing, because every year it kind of goes up. So you will see really high quality international standard kind of performance
Yeah.
surfing, and hopefully Fistral is a great wave, really good quality wave. So hopefully that turns on for us. And we'll see a good show.
Well, we always do. It's all the details are on Surfing England's website in terms of the dates. Follow their socials, and everything will be on there. Ben, I want to say cheers. It's been a hell of a opportunity to really get behind the scenes of what Surfing England are doing as an NGB. We're grateful for what you're doing. I hope 2025 goes as we plan and is another roaring success as last year was.
Yeah, thanks, Martin. It really is. It really is. I hate to take too much or even any of the credit, because we've got such a phenomenal team, like in the office, coaching team, volunteers. It genuinely is those guys who are making the real difference. But been an absolute pleasure to talk to you, and yeah, I'm looking forward to listening to future episodes of the podcast and seeing who else you get on.
Oh, well, that's it. If anyone's out there, they want to approach us, we'll take many people. We really want to develop stories across UK surfing, don't we? We want to be able to meet characters, talk to them and put that out there and really be the place of amazing stories, but also really insightful information about what the NGB is doing. So yeah, thanks for coming.
Pleasure.
Have a great year ahead. What a great opportunity to talk to Ben Powis, the CEO at Surfing England's national governing body. He's been really transparent with what he is doing with that funding that's been brought in from Sport England, and he's really giving the opportunity to see where the national governing body is driving forward. I just want to thank him for being on the show. Huge thanks to Caravan and Motorhome Club, our headline partner, and to Mora Media House for capturing that episode. And I can't wait to see who we're going to be having on our next podcast here at Off the Lip. See you next time.